Alrighty, up next we have Brea, and she's going to be talking about ritualized finger amputation in the classic Maya, which I'm very curious about.
So I want to walk you through a scenario. Picture yourself coming upon a crowd of people. You're walking between them, and you notice they all seem to be holding one of their hands in a cloth. You see grimaces on their faces and can hear grunts of pain in the distance. You follow the sound. And when you do, you come across two people seated on two sides of a flat rock. One with a blade in their hand looking like they're about to strike. You quickly look away. But when you do, you notice a bowl. And inside that bowl are the fingers of all the people that you just passed. You realize the cloths over their hands are bloody. And this is a finger amputation ritual. Now, this isn't an excerpt from a horror movie. Finger amputation rituals are a reality all across the globe. And then collecting those fingers in bowls is a real phenomenon among the classic Mayan people. So the classic Maya period is from 250 to 900 CE in the Yucatan Peninsula in Central America. During this period, there was a phenomenon called finger bowls that we find archaeologically as bowls placed in sealed ritual deposits with up to 100 people's finger bones inside of them. Now, my research is trying to figure out three things. First, I want to know what finger bowls are using archaeological, illustrative, and hieroglyphic data. Next, I'll ask whether we find this ritual at major sites or smaller sites. And this can tell us whether the participants are elites or commoners. And lastly, why? Why are there bowls filled with fingers? And how do we know they were cut off living individuals? See, I think people went and willingly had their fingers cut off. And that's because through my research, I've conducted a global survey and have found 112 populations in these concentrations with examples of ritual finger amputation. Using information from these groups, I'm going to determine possible reasons why people engaged in this classic Mayan ritual. Now, maybe you're asking yourself why you should care about this research. Beyond gruesome fascination, ritual finger amputation is a dying practice. Very few groups still do it. However, extreme rituals are still very present in our world. Firewalking, self-flagellation, festivals where you pierce through your cheeks with blades. If we can figure out what this finger amputation ritual was, who did it, and most importantly, why, we can use that knowledge to understand why people voluntarily put their bodies through such extreme rituals in the past and today. Thank you.
Alrighty, does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Do you have any working theories as to why they would do such a thing?
I have a couple. So based on my global survey, I've identified 10 reasons why people would do this. And the two most common are an act of mourning, so extreme grief if your child has died. It's something to just try to get those emotions out. And then the other most common is as a sacrifice to a deity. So like among the classic Maya, we know that bloodletting, sacrificing your blood to the gods to get a good crop, is very common. It's very important in their belief system. So based on the fact that we know offerings of blood and body parts are important in the classic Maya, and it's one of the most common reasons for ritual finger amputation, that's my pet theory, but I'm also ready to be wrong as well. Yeah, thank you. Yes?
What sort of archaeological data would allow you to discriminate between those two theories?
So based on the different types of motivations, we're finding different patterns as to what fingers are cut off, how many joints you take, if an individual is just cutting off one finger once, or potentially if something terrible happens in their family, they have quite a few deaths, so they'll have to cut off a different number. So I'm basing this off of how many fingers we find in the bowls, what hand they're from, and what joints they're from, and also the grave goods or the cash goods that we find in there as well. So I haven't gotten too far along in it, but if we find certain like deity objects, then we might think, oh, maybe this is more sacrificial, maybe it's going towards a deity. So really we'll see what we find in the caches and then try to discriminate from there. Yeah. Yes? Not unless we do ancient DNA, which just don't have the time in my MA thesis, but it's something that I've been throwing around and would like to do in the future for sure. Yes?
So in the modern, is there any sort of recurring similarity between all of these cultures that have these extreme practices that you can see?
I don't want to generalize between a large groups of people and say, you know, this is all the common thread between them, because I think that's reducing a problem to too much reductionism, too much to the tiny little bits. Because I think that these different types of rituals, even if they're not finger amputation, I think we can find extreme forms of rituals in almost every society. But I think that in some, we have decided kind of as a collective that this isn't something we want to do anymore, and so therefore it's kind of been taken out of our acceptable lexicon of behaviors. But I think that that's not the case among a whole array of different groups as well. I think there are groups that in the past and today as well, even though there's not as many, that say this is something that we do to express a certain part of ourselves, and that's okay, we've accepted that, we don't see any problem with that. So I think that would be the only connecting thread between all the groups, is just the perception that extreme rituals are acceptable, whereas in Canada we might not see it the same way. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you so much.
Thank you.